I'm Hanna Nyqvist. I'm the growth manager here at Growth Tribe UK. Growth Tribe helps businesses with digital transformations through education programs. We do trainings in marketing, growth, analytics, applied AI, and in a lot of different formats.
And I'm Platt, and I am the general manager here in the UK. And we can just use Hannah's explanation because it's super nice.
I think a lot of people think of Growth Tribe as simply a growth marketing or focused on solely the marketing aspect of a business, but growth definitely encompasses the whole business. The approach that we try to teach people is the growth approach, which you can apply to marketing, sales, product, even HR. It's more like a blueprint of how to scale and sustainably grow a business.
Number one, you're in good company because very few people are doing this. In terms of like the advantages, I mean, it depends, right? I think that it depends what you're looking to achieve, right? Like the advantage, if you're looking short term for a quick exit in 3 years, it will be that you focus on the metrics that matter to achieve that. So maybe it's like user acquisition. But then if you're looking, to be a purpose-driven business and you're all about, reducing your impact on the environment, then suddenly, if you're being really methodical and but that's your kind of holy grail, then you achieve that.
I've implemented growth marketing in various sizes of companies, from 3-man teams where I was the only growth marketer with a CTO and a CEO, to what we are now in Growth Tribe, which is like 100+ company. And it definitely is possible to implement in all sizes. And I think the value of growth marketing is that it goes through the whole funnel. In terms of the customer journey, it doesn't focus on simply an aspect of marketing, or it doesn't divide marketing with sales. And I think that is especially valuable, especially when you're in a small team, but it is also very scalable to work cross-functionally in wider teams like we have now.
When people think about growth marketing or growth in general, they invariably jump to the tactics, like the big sexy use cases from Silicon Valley, like the Dropbox referral scheme or Airbnb ripping off Craigslist. And they're great stories, but they are a laggard of like this mindset and process for experimentation, and that's what growth is about, right? It's about implementation of a strict methodology for testing, and that can go from discovery of a new channel or a new vertical or a new product or service, like launching something, right through to optimizing that, right? So like we found product market fit with whatever we're doing, and now it's time to like ratchet that up and optimize it. And we apply the same methodology. We might use different skills and different tools, but the mindset and the process is the same. The methodology is basically a repurposed scientific method, right? This is what Galileo and Francis Bacon were doing in the 16th century, right? Like it's about coming up with a hypothesis, designing an experiment to validate it or otherwise, and following that methodology, right? Like being strict with what you do, seeing if it works, and then and failure is a part of that, right? And just like if it doesn't work, then we move on and we try something else.
I think for myself as a growth marketer, it is difficult to specifically define what growth marketing is, especially because of all the misconceptions around it. But if I think about truly what the essence of growth marketing is, I think it can kind of be boiled down into 4 different categories. The first is definitely customer-centric. I think that is the foundation of everything around growth marketing, seeing what your customer wants and working from that. And I think that's why it can be applied to so many different functions, not just marketing. The second thing is full funnel. you really follow the whole journey. Traditional marketers tend to focus on things like very specific metrics, let's say number of MQLs, marketing qualified leads. And that's very helpful in some ways, but if you follow it down the funnel, sometimes it can actually show you that nothing is actually converting to an actual customer or to revenue. So definitely full funnel. The third thing is data-driven, definitely following the data rather than assumptions. And this can be a little bit controversial because there's also a creative aspect to marketing, but I don't think that it needs to be either or. It's just about using the data to decide the next steps. And then the last thing is the experimentation part. And I think that's unique to growth marketing specifically. We talk a little bit about it in different aspects of marketing. So if you're focused on paid advertising, you can do a little bit of A/B testing. But the thing about the growth approach is you can do experimentation on absolutely anything. So for me, those are the 4 aspects that truly define the essence of what growth marketing is.
Brian Balfour, who's like one of the kind of Silicon Valley godfathers of this, he did a really nice podcast, which I can't remember now, but if I'll maybe give you the link to it. Where he talks about like if you're looking for good growth people, you want people that are obsessed with experience, right? Which kind of like that's a bit of a theme throughout of everything Hanna just explained. So it's like I'm not interested in driving awareness at the top of the funnel. I'm interested in how my brand is positioned, and then right through to like right when they leave as a customer, like what does that whole journey look like? They've got lots of different skill sets they're interested in, and they're happy to like be the guardians of that, right? So I'm going to go to finance, I'm going to say, guys, I know you want to make a few extra pounds this year, but actually, like for the sake of killing this user experience, like we're not going to do that and be really kind of bullshit. That's obviously, this is the holy grail of like growth marketers, right? Because obviously that's like a mega skill set. But I think that identifying people that are interested, like in building value and being holistic in how they look is a really good foundation on which to build an excellent kind of growth hacker, marketer, whatever you want to call them.
Definitely. So the full funnel framework that we use here at Growth Tribe is based on the Pirate funnel. There's a lot of different frameworks, but basically it just outlines the full customer journey. Just to give a quick overview, the top of the funnel is about awareness, making people know about your brand, getting people to understand what you do. For a lot of companies, this also includes a lot of education. So for example, in the case of Growth Tribe, maybe there are companies out there that don't know that they have this skills gap, and informing them would come over the awareness stage. And then after that, you have acquisition, which is getting them to engage with your business in some way. And then following this is activation, for them to really show intent in purchasing your product or service or anything like that. Now, bear in mind, this looks completely different for various companies, and it can change over time depending on your business models. Following that is the revenue stage, where they actually make the purchase and start doing business with you. And then you look at the post experience of them becoming a customer. So that would be retention, keeping them engaged. So for a mobile app, that could be keeping them engaged with your mobile app. For us, it could mean making sure that we have good relationships with clients, so that we can help them in the future.
The famous one is from Facebook, is your daily active users. Like that's a really common like retention metric for a product and like an app.
Yeah, exactly. And then the last bit is referral. So really getting that scale is all about word of mouth, like people being so happy with your product that they spread the word about it, and it kind of grows organically in the market.
Referrals is a good indicator as well for like how good your product is, right? Like if people are so delighted with the experience that they're prepared to tell their mates, you're onto a winner, right? One of the things I like about the pirate funnel, is how dynamic it is, and there's like a real common like misconception, like, oh, you know, I'm a B2B company, so like, and what you've explained is like essentially like a direct to consumer, you know, customer journey. But like the beautiful thing about the framework is that you just sub it out, right? Like maybe you don't have I don't know, the activation or acquisition piece the same as like an app does. Well, that's fine. You get rid of them, and maybe, you know, revenue comes like right at the end, or maybe it comes right at the start. Like maybe somebody has to literally pay to even speak to you. Like who knows? But like it doesn't matter, right? Like the point is that the framework is there for you to own it, and I think it gives a really good focus and a good structure for, you know, everybody to align around. Because it's funny, we were doing one. We do a challenge with for our trainers, where we get people to map out the pirate funnel for one of our clients that we've worked with, and these are people that have worked in growth for like 10 years, right? Like super experienced, super smart people, and they attribute different actions to the parts of the funnel. So like it's not a given, right, that people are aligned internally. In fact, I would dare say, if you did an exercise, you know, internally, then you would probably find that different people think activation and acquisition happens at different stages. And how can you drive it if you don't align on it, right? Like
Personally, it's a very accessible strategy to implement in terms of experimentation. I always say this to people that ask me about growth marketing. You know, we get a lot of people in our courses saying we don't have the budget, or management doesn't fully buy into experimentation. How can I begin? And I think experimentation definitely does not have to cost a lot, and it does not have to take that much time. It's all about trying small experiments first, to then later on go to upper management and say, these are the results I got. I think I can improve this if I had more resources, etc. So I definitely think even with minimal resources, it's possible. You know, I've worked with marketing budgets from, I don't know, 500 a month to 70,000 a month, and within that, there's so much possibility. So I think there definitely is a misconception that you do need a lot of resources to start experimenting, but it's definitely not the case.
The big challenge here, especially in like the larger organizations, is often around like the mindset of this, because we're so conditioned to like reach targets, to smash our targets, or to whatever, like exceed our KPIs or whatever framework you're using, and like so then turn around and say it's okay to fail is like kind of sits juxtaposed, right, to like what we like we've trained. I mean, we're trained from this from kids, right? Like from school, you do your tests and you're streamed into your different, you know, like stages in school and stuff. So I think that is massively difficult, and even if you're on your own, you know, like you're a small team or you're a one-man band, you know, like failure is difficult, right? But I think if you can get, this is where being fast is it makes it, like if you do something for 6 months, right, it's too big to fail. If you do something for 2 weeks and you've also got 5 other things on the boil, suddenly it's a bit more manageable, right?
I mean, it is very scary in the beginning, depending on your situation.
Especially when you fail loads at the start, that sucks. But
it does happen. Like you're basically starting from zero, right? In terms of trying new things. So obviously you're gonna fail a lot, and it does hurt your confidence, and you do have to fight it to keep on trying. But it's like anything, you just have to persevere and keep doing it. You know, I've worked with clients that had no idea what growth marketing was. You know, I had to really justify the whole experimentation approach. You know, they thought it was great because of all the idea of scalability and growth at the end of it. But of course, when you're giving those weekly reports and monthly reportings, it's still difficult to say, okay, we haven't reached it yet, but from these experiments that we've done, we do see signals that building on this will lead to that in the future. And it is about always justifying your experiment with the data and the results. That is, you know, kind of your lifesaver in a way. So always follow the data, because your managers, your clients, they can't they can't argue with the data that you present.
Well, and it's learnings, right? Like as long as like
exactly.
numbers that have been interpreted are insights, right?
Exactly.
So like if you just turn up and say, yeah, we're like whatever 10% of our target without anything, and then if you say actually 10% of our target, we've run these 100 experiments, and that shows you've at least been working. And then if you say 10% of the target, 100 experiments, and this is all the stuff we've learned, so definitely don't use Facebook and LinkedIn and whatever, like, and you can say we're actually crossing off, then it's very sensible. I heard a really good question actually about like this was in a team of like traditional marketeers, and they were like, how do we manage failure, like when this is when exactly this is happening, right? Like when we're reporting upwards and we're saying, look, this is, and I think one of the things you have to do is detach the failure of the work or experiment, and I think the terminology is important there, right? Like we call them experiments rather than we call it work, right? So these are experiments because that immediately, like the definition of that is a new thing that is prone to failure or success. Detaching that from the individual and the team, right? Like the team is not a failure because the experiment has failed, right? The experiment is a failure. The team can still be super high performance.